पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दोग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनो यस्यान्तन्न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः।
We will continue with the first 4 verses of the second chapter, the Sankhya Yoga. Tam tadha krupaya avishtam asrupurnakulekshanam vishidantam idam vakyam uvacha madhusudanaha. Sri Bhagavan uvacha kutatva kasmalam idam vishame samupasthitam anaryajustam asvargyam akirtikaram arjuna klaibyam masmagama pardhana etat tvayi upapadyate kshrudram hrudaya daurbalyam tvaktva uttishta parantapa. Arjuna uvacha kadham bhishmam aham sankhye dronancha madhusudana ishubhit pratiyotsami pujarho arisudana. Sanjaya said, to him thus overcome by compassion, full of sorrow, his eyes distressed and filled with tears, Madhusudana, Lord Krishna, spoke these words. Shri Bhagavan, the Blessed Lord, said, "Whence has this blemish, alien to honorable men, causing disgrace and opposed to heaven, come upon you, Arjuna, at this untimely hour?" Partha, yield not to unmanliness. It is unworthy of you. Shake off this paltry faint-heartedness. Stand up, O scorcher of enemies. Arjuna said, "How shall I fight Bhishma and Drona with arrows on the battlefield, O Madhusudana? Worthy of reverence are they, O slayer of enemies." Here, Sanjaya is relaying that Arjuna is overcome by compassion, full of sorrow, and his eyes are distressed and filled with tears. The sequence of the expression used in this verse is of great significance in arriving at the truth of Arjuna's condition. Overcome by compassion shows that his heart is filled with compassion alone. The expression that follows is full of sorrow. If the heart is full of compassion, then there is no place in it for an emotion of such a dissimilar quality as sorrow. This makes it clear that the phrase full of sorrow does not refer to Arjuna's heart. It does not describe an emotion, but it is only the state of his mind. So we can say Arjuna's heart was full of compassion and his mind is full of sorrow. Again, Arjuna's heart is full of compassion and his mind full of sorrow. So this state should not be misunderstood as indicating weakness or confusion. The verse shows Arjuna in his full stature at the height of his intelligence, sensitivity and alertness, and at the same time without any line of action to follow. Arjuna has set himself a task which is impossible unless he attains a state of consciousness which will justify any action of his and will allow him even to kill in love in support of the purpose of evolution. Arjuna could not reconcile killing and loving. This is no weakness on his part and does not detract from his greatness. Any man of similar high development would arrive at this state of suspension between heart and mind. Even a mind as highly alert and intelligent as was Arjuna's had become caught in a situation which was out of control. His heart could not be reconciled with his mind. On the practical level, this is like wanting to remain in darkness and yet be in the light. Arjuna is a great man of dynamic nature. His heart was full of love, yet he could not at this time love his dear ones. His mind is clear and alert and full of purpose, yet he could not at this time act according to its dictates. Held in suspension as he was, he could not fight and satisfy his mind, nor could he love his dear ones and satisfy his heart. For this reason, he was full of sorrow. Arjuna was not confused as commentators in general have portrayed him. His heart and mind were at the height of alertness, but they could not show him a line of action to fulfill their contradictory aspirations. This condition of suspension is of value for it provides a real basis for divine intelligence. At first sight, it appears to be the result of circumstances, but it is in fact produced by the first word of Lord Krishna on the battlefield. And what did Lord Krishna say? He said, "Behold these Kurus gathered together." Partha, behold these Kurus gathered together. And then this created a warm wave of love in Arjuna's heart, the warmth of love that connects the son and mother. The purity of Arjuna's life, receiving a wave of love from Lord Krishna, developed into a state of suspension and prepared the ground for the divine wisdom to dawn. Here is the picture of a man of the world who is going to receive the greatest divine wisdom ever revealed to any man. In order to find the real Arjuna, on whom the blessing came, we must look beyond the appearance of tears and distress. The outer structure of tears and distress serves to protect the inner glory of consciousness in a state of suspension. It is like the bitter skin of an orange which contains the sweet juice within it. The apparent phenomenal face of the world is not so attractive, but within it is the altar of God whose light sustains our life. Actually, Lord Krishna will not allow even the outer aspect of Arjuna's life to look sorrowful. He will improve the appearance also. He will improve this outer aspect of Arjuna's life too. And with that in view, he shocks Arjuna as he begins his speech. From here onwards, Lord Krishna is referred to as Sri Bhagavan. So, he is speaking as Paramatma, the Bhagavan, the transcendental, eternal self, and not as Krishna, who is known as a certain name and form, a certain appearance to everybody. Here, Bhagavan is transcendental eternal self beyond the three gunas, the pure absolute consciousness. So Bhagavan is saying, whence has this blemish alien to honorable men, causing disgrace and opposed to heaven, come upon you, Arjuna, at this untimely hour? Arjuna has presented his problems in the first chapter, verses 28 to 46 of the chapter. How Lord Krishna sees the situation and disapproves of it is clear from the expressions of this verse. Whence indicates the baselessness of the whole argument. Again, whence indicates the baselessness of the whole argument. This word runs parallel to verse 28, which provides a basis for Arjuna's argument. Blemish refers to the content of the verses 29 to 31. Alien to honorable men expresses the nature of verses 32 to 35. Causing disgrace refers to the verses 36 to 39. Opposed to heaven refers to verses 40 to 46. So if you wish to go back and listen to those verses, please do. The Lord exclaims to Arjuna, whence has this blemish come upon you? Whence has this blemish come upon you? He speaks with surprise and uses the word blemish to epitomize Arjuna's overall state and way of thinking. The word blemish accompanied by alien to honorable men, causing disgrace and opposed to heaven, and untimely hour hit Arjuna so hard. His alert mind and heart received a severe shock which jolted him out of the state of suspension. Immediately, he lost confidence in the way he was thinking. This made him look to the Lord. In this verse, the Lord appraises Arjuna's situation in words which suggested solution. The first word spoken by Lord Krishna in this discourse expresses the whole philosophy of life, the whole of Vedanta, the world of forms and phenomena in its ever-changing nature and the absolute never-changing reality. Again, the world of forms and phenomena in its ever-changing nature and the absolute never-changing reality of transcendental nature, and both of these are full, Purnamada and Purnam Idam. Whence then has come this blemish of ignorance which causes sorrow? Again, at the present is composed of the two fulls. The blemish does not belong to any present time. That is why it is untimely at any hour. Again, the present, in the present time, in this present hour, is composed of both the fulls, the two fulls. So there cannot be any blemish, or the blemish cannot belong to any present time. Problems are not solved on the level of problems. Analyzing a problem to find its solution is like trying to restore freshness to a leaf by treating the leaf itself, whereas the solution lies in watering it the root. When Sri Bhagavan begins to answer, he does not devote a moment to Arjuna's arguments. He simply dismisses everything that Arjuna has said without analyzing it, because by analyzing each statement, it would not be possible to resolve the situation. All problems of life arise from some weakness of mind. All weakness of mind is due to the mind's ignorance of its own essential nature, which is universal and the source of infinite energy and intelligence. The ignorance of one's own life is the basis of all problems, sufferings, and shortcomings in life. In order to root out any problem of life, it is only necessary to be brought out of ignorance, to be brought to knowledge. Now, how to bring one to knowledge? In order to bring anyone to knowledge, it is first necessary to bring him to a state of mind where he will listen. Arjuna, being in a state of suspension, the Lord said something to him which would shake his mind and make him capable of hearing and understanding. The following verse brings another shock to Arjuna and strengthens the effect produced by this verse. The Lord implies that whether surroundings and circumstances are favorable or unfavorable, men of honor and grace always act in a way that leads them to glory here on earth and in heaven. Now Bhagavan continues and he says, Partha, yield not to unmanliness. It is unworthy of you. Shake off this paltry faint-heartedness. Stand up, O scorcher of enemies. Here this verse shows the greatest psychological skill in handling a problem by Bhagavan. the Lord uses the word unmanliness, at the same time reminding Arjuna of his honorable heritage by calling him Partha, the son of Pritha. And this is to neutralize in Arjuna what Lord Krishna calls faint-heartedness. Lord Krishna realized that when he first addressed him as Partha, asking him to behold the Kurus assembled in the battle, he awoke in him the love of his mother Pritha, and he knew that the great wave of love instilled by him in Arjuna's heart was responsible for his present state of suspension. Therefore, to bring Arjuna back to his initial preparedness to fight, it was necessary to expand the one-sided nature of the love produced by the word Partha. And this is the reason why Lord Krishna here again uses the word Partha and associates it with faint-heartedness. Having produced this effect in the heart, it was at once necessary to direct the flow of Arjuna's mind away from the state of suspension towards action. So the Lord tells him to stand up. In this way, the Lord sets up an impulse in his mind towards fighting and immediately supplements it by reminding him of his status as a scorcher of enemies. The Lord wants to stop Arjuna at once from thinking in a manner that will lead him nowhere. He tells Arjuna that this way does not belong to him, for he has always been a dynamic personality, and he says it is unworthy of you. Here the Lord is also implying a deeper meaning. When he is saying it is unworthy of you, he is reminding Arjuna of his essential nature, that thou art, which the Upanishads declare. You are the unbounded, eternal being. You should breathe universal life and not fall prey to faint-heartedness, for that belongs to the field of ignorance. When Lord asked him to shake off his faint-heartedness, he qualifies it by paltry. By this he means to encourage Arjuna. The weakness he has to overcome is not great, but just a failing of the heart. Lord Krishna wants to convey to Arjuna that when love grows in man's heart, his outlook becomes more universal, and he should become stronger and more dynamic, but that in his case has not happened. Arjuna has not gained a universal outlook. So Arjuna needs to gain the universal heart and the universal mind. This further expresses a great metaphysical truth. Ignorance has no material substance. It is just an illusion which should be easy to shake off. Unfortunately, this ignorance has deprived Arjuna of the strength that the wave of love should naturally bring. Arjuna is a great warrior. Arjuna is brave by nature, and that is why the Lord seems to remind him of what he is. You are unbounded and eternal in your absolute nature, and you are the scorcher of enemies in the relative nature in this human form. A close study of these two verses, which form the Lord's first exhortation, shows that they contain, in essence, the entire teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Now, after listening to Bhagavan, again Arjuna is saying, how shall I fight Bhishma and Drona with arrows on the battlefield, O Madhusudana? Worthy of reverence are they, O slayer of enemies. Arjuna is saying to Lord Krishna, you are the slayer of enemies, Madhusudana. How can you ask me to kill those who are worthy of reverence? So this verse shows Arjuna's alertness of mind even in this state of suspension. If one is alert and awake in heart and mind, there is always hope of rising above any time of trial. Arjuna presses his points in the next few verses, but here we will end the essence of these 4 verses. Now I will add a few words, again trying to gain the maximum from this Maharshi's commentary. It is important to transcend and then listen. Sravanam, Mananam and the Nididhyasanam. So transcend and then you listen, Sravanam, and then the Mananam is the introspection or the analyzing or the contemplation. I mean, these, one go from one to the other. And Nididhyasana is the existence, living with this knowledge. Again, we continue to come back to this one point, why transcendence is important. Because you're transcending. When you're transcending, you're going from the gross to the subtle. And Maharshi always reminds this point that by regularly transcending, a full life can be lived more spontaneously and easily. The transcendental reality of being creeps into the thought, speech and action. And that is what makes a difference in life. The experience of the transcendental field continuously reminds us of this oneness or this Advaita or the non-duality. The Absolute is all that is and that I am. That Absolute, which is the experience during transcending in meditation, that I am and all this duplicity and all this duality and the multiplicity, I am not. For example, as long as the reality of every fiber of the leaf is the sap, reality is the sap, then where is the leaf, where is the flower, and where is the branch? So the leaf only exists in the ignorance of the reality. The world of multiplicity and duality only lives in the world of ignorance or not knowing the truth of the self. The transcendental reality of being creeps into the thought, speech and actions. So when one is listening, then you are listening with that clarity because knowledge is structured in consciousness. So you understand the words the way they are in clarity. And again, this Mananam, the introspection also becomes very clear. When the words are clear, then you don't contemplate on it endlessly. Then the actions become clear. The actions are also clear and become precise, and you are not violating the laws of nature. If one tries to continuously analyze, continuously contemplate, then you cannot arrive at the truth. And if one is continuously reading and gaining only intellectual knowledge and the book knowledge, then also Maharshi always says it is a wasted life. So again, the experience of the being or the experience of the higher states of consciousness to begin with and then the being and understanding about it, both are necessary. But mere book reading is a waste of time. The intellectual understanding is also necessary so that the knowledge which is lively in one's awareness is put to thoughts, to speech to action spontaneously. So, intellectual understanding should not be brushed off and cannot be brushed off. It is through this intellectual media that the transcendental reality of being creeps into the thought, speech, and action, and that is what makes a difference in life. So, both things are necessary, both the experience and understanding about it, both are necessary. Maharshi always reminded that Vedic texts cannot be really translated because in translations you can translate only the isolated values. Translation is in space-time boundaries and it is just the surface value. That is why anything in the Ved cannot be understood just by reading the books. It can only be known by being totality, and this is fully awake Atma, fully awake consciousness. Regular practice of transcendental meditation makes that level more and more acquainted to our awareness. So I conclude by saying, transcend, do the Sravanam, Mananam and the Nididhyasana, then the progression is very quick and one makes great progress to gain the higher states of consciousness and be fully enlightened. Jai Gurudev, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
ज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञान